if you don't want to contribute to the discussion or anything like that, you can remain silent and nobody will be able to see you, or you can just make comments in the chat as we go along. Chris McMahon is going to help us out today by keeping an eye on that chat room and flagging up any questions. So when it does come to the discussion session, you can pop your questions in the chat, or you can use the raise your hand feature and we'll shout out to all the people in the chat. It's great to see so many people that have joined us today for this. So in case you didn't know, this session is run by the Design Society. Who are we? Well, as of this year, we're now 900 members strong in over 48 countries, promoting robust, usable and scalable means of design solutions to complex problems. So an interdisciplinary community featuring academics, industry practitioners, educators, and a lot more. So what are we all about? As I mentioned, the robustness, the usability and the scalability of design, but also towards a sustainable and globalized society needs to thrive in the 21st century. So we've got that as our mission statement. Practically, what do we do? Well, we facilitate interactions with peers, juniors, senior design researchers and practitioners through events, access to research papers and thesis on our website, different calls for papers and the advertising of jobs. We offer our members reduced publication fees for many of the design journals, reduced registration fees for all our endorsed or co-endorsed, co-owned and endorsed events, and our owned event ISED. And it's all in an effort to help you to develop your career as a design researcher. For our younger members, we promote PhD summer schools, young members events, interactions with peers in the research field, and different resources for young members as well. You might be have a specialty that you are involved in, and in fact today's session is set up by the Design Education SIG, which is one of our special interest groups. You can head on to the website. I'll give some more information towards the end about the website, but you can maybe find something that you would be interested in, or find out more information about the Design Education SIG as well. So it's myself and Hilary here today. Unfortunately, Eric Bohemia was meant to join us as well, but he's having some plumbing issues at the moment, so he might be able to pop in later on if he manages to get that sorted. But I will hand over now to Hilary, and she'll take you through some of our presentation, quick presentation to start off our discussion session.
Thank you very much. I hope you can all hear me. I'm Dr. Hilary Grierson here from Strathclyde University, and I am one of the chair of the Design Education Special Interest Group for the Design Society. The DSIG is hosting this particular chat room today because it's about moving to online teaching and design education. And that's brought about just recently because of the coronavirus and the contact restrictions that are being placed on meeting together and meeting in large groups. So how could the Design Education SIG help support this? We're going to look today at some of the challenges that we're going to be facing by moving into online design education. And we're also going to see what solutions people already have that could be used. There's a vast resource of people within the Design Society, all of who are educating design students at the moment, and they probably have solutions out there that would be very useful for us all to share. So our main focus will be on sharing those solutions and addressing some of the challenges that you feel that we have in moving and transitioning to online design education. Can I ask if you could put anything that you think is a challenge into the chat box, and when we come to have the discussion part of this chat room, we will then pick up on some of those and we'll try and find solutions to those and see how other people have addressed their move to online design education. So today's agenda, what we're looking to cover is the challenges that we face, what the design education SIG can do in terms of meeting that challenge, and then the open discussion that we'll all take part in to look at solutions that you have come up with that have worked well in the past. So it's a vast area. There are lots of different ways of working when it comes to working in design, and design has its special nuances in terms of how we work and how we collaborate. But I'd like to try and put boundaries to this afternoon's discussion. I'd like to see if we could talk about group working, working in the studio, maybe more practical activities like prototyping and CAD modelling. These are 4 modes that are fairly generic right across design activities and certainly take part a lot in the design studio. So rather than addressing every type of design engineering working mode, we'll focus on these 4 at the moment. So working in groups, of course, there are challenges there. The big challenges come from the actual bringing together of ideas and exchanging those ideas. Being able to work collaboratively with each other does involve a lot of face-to-face work. Studio work as well. Studio work is very much done in large groups. It's about students listening to feedback from others, feedback from mentors, feedback from peers, and so on. So again, how do we replicate or how do we improve the studio if we move online? Another big aspect of difficulties and challenges we will be facing when we move online are those of prototyping. How do we carry out practical activities when we move online? And then we have CAD modelling, the possibility of using CAD more, maybe VR, AR, and so on, to actually support that online environment that we'll be moving towards. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to move to a couple of examples that we have in terms of a global design project. Now, the reason I'd like to bring up this particular example, it's an example of a project that we run in a class called Global Design Class at Strathclyde University, and it has a lot of these modes of working in them. For the past 10 years, we've been running this particular class with this particular project. So we have experienced a number of these issues and challenges and tried to resolve ways around them as we've gone through this project over the years. Normally we run the project with groups of about 5 or 6 students, and they're given a design brief. Now that brief could be anything. The current project we're running is to design an automatic fish food feeder. And the students have to work with global partners around the world, and usually we try to get them synchronous and asynchronous opportunities to give them a range of online environment experiences, working at the same time as those distanced from them, and also working at different times in different places. What we have faced as challenges over the years have been the difficulties of working across distances, and that means time zones, working with people that the students have never met before. The technologies have also had their limitations and barriers which over the years we've overcome. I'm sorry, I've lost my screen.
I'll just bring it back up, yeah.
Righto, I'm sorry, yep. Sorry, it just disappeared on me there. Are you there, Ross?
Yeah, it should be loading up again now.
Perfect. Just as I'm talking here about the global design project, I actually have one of the partners coming up on the screen, Philip Ferrugia from Malta. Hello, Philip.
Hello.
Very nice to meet you. Right, I'm talking about the Global Design Project and the challenges that were faced. So working together across distances, time zones, with people that you've never met, technologies were quite intensive to support all stages of the design development. Design methods were often not suitable for an online environment, especially those that were creative or more practical. And then there was obviously the difficulties in sharing information, sharing things like prototypes and models and so on. So how did we get round some of these issues and some of these problems? Well, over the years, we started to write a series of journal papers and conference papers, and the staff and the students in the class covered things like the general challenges, collaborative design, information management, sharing of information, multidisciplinary teams, digital sketching, social media for global design, and digital design tools. So we have looked at quite a range of things over the years, and embedded in E&PDE archives, you'll find lots of papers on that which you can access and we can point you to and direct you to. So some of the solutions that we found to the issues with working online, particularly for a design project, was the collaboration and the group working. We introduced very small icebreakers to kickstart the projects, where we got students to work collaboratively and they could create solutions together using whiteboards and sketches and photographs. So that covered a couple of things. It covered getting to know each other, and it also covered being able to start working with the technologies that they were going to use. Project planning for online work was essential, and we devoted a whole extra week to project planning at the beginning of the project. They had to manage their work, they had to decide what tools they were going to use, and they had to set up video conferencing and so on. They had to be aware of where the work was stored, they had to be aware of the protocols for communication and so on. So a lot of pre-planning was required for online work. Then we had students using their own tools, and over the years we've allowed students to do that. In particular, in the last 2 or 3 years, students have been using social media to great effect when carrying out the sharing of design work. There's a great emphasis put on the process in terms of our assessing of the project, and we also allowed students time to reflect on what was working and what wasn't working. In the studio, what we would do is we'd have live video lectures, and we used to record them live to all partners, but we could also have recorded those and put them out to those individuals who maybe couldn't attend. Greater emphasis was put on the visual content, and there was a lot more sharing of photographs and videos when we went online. And these items, these photos, these videos also made for extremely good archive material the students could go back to for project work, for presentations and so on. And the last 2 areas I want to very quickly mention were prototyping. The difficulties and the challenges of prototyping online and in a global environment are huge. Now, students overcame this in a couple of ways. The first way is they subdivided the team and determined that one subgroup would actually work on the models, and they shared those models via photographs. And we've also now recently started to use VR and AR in terms of virtual prototyping, and that's worked quite successfully. CAD modelling also helps, and we're making a lot more use of that these days. So that's the first project. lots of challenges over the last 10 years and lots of solutions that we've developed, and we have written about a number of those. The next slide I'd like to go to is the Global Studio. This was a project set up by Eric Bohemia and others. And Ross, are you there just now?
Yeah, I can talk very briefly about it. I'm not an expert like Eric is, but the project was rather similar to the global design in terms of its idea and its inception, but it stretched to many different countries, many countries that both the global design project used, but also others. And it also included industrial partners as well, such as Motorola and different both companies, industrial companies, and different university industry partners also. So I was fortunate enough to be involved with both Global Design Project and the Global Studio as part of my PhD, where we ran workshops with the students at both classes. And it was interesting to see slight differences in how the students acted with each other and the different cultural differences as well. Where at the Global Design Project class at Strathclyde University, it tended to be smaller groups that were working on smaller projects and then sending the information to the other teams, or having larger meetings in order to decide upon tasks for a week. Whereas with Global Studio, it tended to be information that was conducted and shared live across the world. So one of the things that came out of the project was breakfast and dinners between team members. So a team that is working in the UK might have their breakfast with a team that was working in China who would be having a late evening dinner, or a late lunch or something like that. So it was quite interesting to see how the students adapted and used different technologies and use different methods in order to conduct their design work outside of a typical studio area. Pass back to Hilary for the next one.
I would certainly agree with that, Ross. Socializing happens to be one of the key elements that bonds the online environment, and even things as having a cup of tea or a sandwich with your partners makes a big difference. So moving on, Ross, can you possibly give me the next slide? It's not displaying on my machine for some reason.
It's the it's up just now. It's the selected resources.
Perfect.
From ENPD and DSIG.
Great. What we have inside ENPDE archives are a number of articles, conference papers that respond to the challenges of online learning, online teaching, and online particularly with reference to the Design Studio. We've pulled out a few of them here for you, and they are things like methodology for a distributed group design. There isn't an actual recognised distributed design methodology. We put and piece together a lot of different activities to carry out global design, but actually there's a lot of work being pieced together by people within the design research area on getting together some kind of methodology for distributed group design. There are lots of papers written on tools for teaching design studios, and again, those can be archived. They are archived and can be accessed. And prototyping and modelling is becoming an increasingly interesting topic where people are looking for alternatives as we move online. We're looking to leads from companies and design practices who are already carrying this out in practice. So next slide, Ross. In terms of the discussion, what I'd like to do now is to move to the challenges that we face online. I've mentioned a number. I've talked about working groups, the design studio and some of the problems we might have there, prototyping, making models, CAD technologies. These are all major challenges that we have to face. And what I'd like to hear from people is what challenges they are currently facing. And let's see if we can have some solutions to those as well. So I'd like to open it up to the participants. And I notice that here on the chat, we already have one challenge noted as achieving functioning prototypes using distributed teams. Matthew, would you like to expand on that and let us know what the challenges are that you face?
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Just give me one moment. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Great. So we have a design program at Rice University where we have freshman through senior level design. And in the spring, we had to go all virtual. And freshman design ultimately produces low to medium fidelity prototypes, materials that we could purchase and ship out to the students. But in senior design, where high fidelity prototypes are produced, work just stopped. As we go into the fall, we're going to rerun freshman and senior design, and we cannot afford to just stop work. Equity issues are being exposed more than ever. We need a model or some ideas or brainstorming about how we can actually restructure to produce functioning prototypes in our year-long capstone or year-long project-based courses.
Right, yep. This is a very difficult area because physical modelling is something that really requires people in the same space to be working on that particular activity. Can I open that out to some others? Does anybody have some good solutions that they have been working on at the moment? Ellis?
Hi.
Hi there,
Hi.
we can hear you.
Can you share?
I think I've just been over pressing my mute button.
Oh,
There's a bit of a
okay.
delay.
That's okay.
Yeah. Yes, we're working on it right now with our mechatronics design unit. So yeah, so we also have the problem that what we're actually looking for are quite a number of different types of materials, everything from electronics through to working mechanisms that we usually have. And it's actually my colleague who's working really hard on this because we've decided we're going to have to create kits and toolboxes that can be sent out. We're going to try and carry the cost of all of it, but with the idea that the toolboxes will kind of come back to us as useful for in the future. But yeah, we're just looking at our learning outcomes, and I suppose we're simplifying a little bit the range of solutions that would be possible without having workshop access. I guess these are the sorts of things that everybody is working on at the moment. I just wanted to say that this is very current for many of us, I think.
Yes. Yep. I think a lot of people are just jumping at solutions and trying to very, very quickly get things to work. One of the things that we did in response to Matthew's question about prototyping is we have got our technicians to record quite a number of prototyping techniques and to show these to the students and to talk them through them. So we're producing mini videos for our younger years, our first and second years, to let them see various techniques that they could use in model making. So we're going to build up an archive of that for them, and then they can try them out. But the difficulty we have is we don't have that full range of material that we have in the workshops at university compared to with what we have at home. So I think you'll see the quality of the maybe the working models being probably different from what we're used to. What we have asked students to do is to produce 3D CAD models, and where they cannot do testing on a physical model, to try and see if they can find some similar software or simulation tools that they could use to test and to validate their designs. So I wonder, have any other people used those particular methods, any simulation methods on final product ideas for students?
I can see a hand up from Sylvia.
Yeah, Sylvia.
Yes, hello.
Hello.
Hi there.
I'm Silvia from Politecnico di Milano.
Hi there.
Can you hear me? Yes. Okay,
Yes.
so actually I would like to share with you something I've done during this semester in the first year bachelor degree. So the students were at home and didn't have any access to any school laboratory, and they were working individually, while usually we have them working in groups, as you were saying. But this year we couldn't, because in this course, I'm going to share my screen if it's possible. Is it?
Yeah, just down the bottom. I think I might need to give you availability to do that. There you go. You should be able to do it now.
Thank you so much. So I'll show you what we usually do every year when the students can work with our workshop and making the prototypes. They have help and materials and support from our technicians, and they can do physical models in detail, and they do them in group of 3 students typically. But that's both good for them to see the products through the development, and for us, the teachers, to interact and help them. This design is made to learn to make the form, really, to work with the shapes, with the colors, and see the interaction of shapes and colors, proportions. So it's very visual, and that's why it's very important to have the physical model. This year we had to, one day suddenly we have to change completely. And so this year we said to the students, okay, you can work with the material you find at home in your garbage, because some students might not be in areas where they could even buy material. So paper cardboard was okay for us. And in this case, we gave them some basic knowledge of Photoshop and other, Illustrator and Photoshop. And we allowed them to make the model in paper and then modify it with the software. And here you see the outcome. So I think we were surprised how good they were able to do it by themselves. But of course, what we really missed was the physical interaction with us, the real interaction, because the purpose of this physical object is to look at them, touch them, and share what you can do with them. And that's something we missed from the distance. We didn't really find a way to solve that. And also this year we accepted virtual CAD models. We do not teach them in the course, so we cannot expect the students to be able to do it. But if some of them was able already, we let them do it. But we asked for the physical one too, because we wanted them to learn what's the effect of their design in the real world. Otherwise, or the lectures are distant, everything becomes virtual, but they are product designers, so we wanted that. So I think it worked. What we couldn't solve is to make them work in group in this case, because if you want something physical, you cannot expect them to do pieces separately and then put them together. I don't know. But the challenge is coming next semester, because next semester we are going to have some students in school and some students not. So I think, and they will be working in group. And we will have some students at Politecnico and some in the other parts of the world with other time schedule. And it's going to be, to me, very challenging to have the group feeling as a group, and make the one who are far away to feel, you know, part of the school. And that's the big challenge, I think.
Yep, exactly. The group together is very difficult. The key things are to try and get them to bond. That's what we learned in terms of the Global Design Project. Try and get the students to do things together, just to get to know each other, so that they feel as though they've established some kind of bond before they start the project. We found that was crucial, and we actually built that into the class. We also felt that it was very important to build in a week's time and put emphasis on the planning of the project. A lot of students tend to love to jump into the designing of the project or the task. We held back the brief for 1 week to ensure that they knew how they were going to manage themselves before they started. So over the years, I think I could say as a member of staff, students have definitely benefited from organising themselves before they've started, playing with the software, and in terms of group work, establishing, maybe even finding out what the team members are best at doing. Some of our 4th and 5th years decided to split the duties. Now, in a global design practice, that's probably exactly what you would do. Someone in San Francisco might be making the models, somebody in the UK might be doing the design drawings, and they might be sharing the work that way. So we got them to think not as co-located designers, but as designers who were completely separated from each other and would have to think differently. And that did help a lot at the beginning. One other thing that was very helpful, our 4th and 5th year students, they're our final years in UK education, and they came up with a very clever enterprise, as would a Scottish student, I should say. They bought a 3D printer and they took orders from everybody. So anybody that wanted bits and pieces of mechanisms and things built, they had a wee consortium who churned out these little 3D rapid prototype parts, and they were mailed to their door. So the students had to design them, they had to come up with the proper assembly instructions for them, they got sent off to their friends, and they paid for them. I mean, obviously they were paying for the materials only, but it was a very quick, collective, enterprising way that some of our students off their own backs managed to overcome physical parts that they needed for their final project. It's not a solution for everybody, but I mean, for some of those students, it certainly was a solution. Good.
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you,
I'm
Sylvia.
just looking at some questions here, so I'll circle back to some of them that Caroline has suggested at the start. But just on the topic, Laura Hayes been in touch to say the issue of bonding is especially important for first-year design students who have never met before. And there's a little bit of a concern there about, well, if they miss out on the studio experience in first year, how's that going to affect them in second year, third year, and so on, when they can actually get back into the studio? It's an interesting point.
That's a very good point, Laura. We have in the past looked at the possibility of buddying up with elder students for the first years. But this is the very, very first time that we'll have had an intake where first years will never have experienced the design studio at university. Several of them will have experienced what it's like to do product design engineering because they have had that as a subject at school, but a lot of them won't. So again, bonding is particularly important. One thing we do need to remember, though, that the generation that we are talking about now is a generation that is used to being tied by social media and communication, and maybe we can learn a lot from that in order to bring that to our classes, to get students to bond, to get them to work together and collaboratively. This is only just beginning, the use of social media in classes.
So I'll circle back to Carolina's comment, which was on human-centered design. Oh, there it is. How to engage students with users in the design process is going to be a challenge this year. Carolina, are you there? Do you want to chip in some extra information?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Well, I was lucky enough that I wasn't teaching this past semester, but I'm planning for my studio class next semester with a graduate group of students. And I have to craft the assignments around the limitations of accessing people. So just wondering if other people have had experiences and have been successful at it. You know, we are working with healthcare design, and that is just exponentially more difficult.
Yes, that is going to be an issue, actually getting access for user feedback as well as feedback and support from experts. We have a student, well, I have a student in 5th year postgraduate, and she is doing an Alzheimer's project at the moment. And she actually found that because of the lockdown, that a lot of the carers had more time to engage with the project. They couldn't do it physically, but they could do it in terms of conversations across the internet and webcams. So, has anybody else got any solutions to trying to get the human-centered design aspect into the online experience?
I'm not seeing anything in the chat just now, but if anyone does, you can flag it up there.
Yeah, yep.
So hi there, it's Anna Wojdeska from Healthcare Design London. We have a double master's course between Imperial College London and Royal College of Art that focuses specifically on human-centered design and including users in a couple of the modules. We have delivered already half of our program online, and with the design dash that focuses specifically on, normally it focuses specifically on in situ work within the hospital, which we had to redesign within a week because of the current climate in March. And what we did, we ran a little bit differently to other programs because we are part-time and we have those intense two pairs of 1 week hackathon style modules. And what we did, we had planned for the users, actually what we did, we divided students into groups, and we had booked users that students interviewed in groups, but users were, patients were calling in on the phone call, and the rest was participating as a group via Google Hangouts. Or it could be done also through the Zoom platform. But we did have clear sheets to work with users and an easy collaborative way of making notes, and that was very, very successful. And then we did the same thing later for the feedback from users in terms of the concepts and solutions. So we were surprised how well it works. For one of the future modules, which is the innovation module, we will be, because our course is particularly big on designing within the hospital environment at least in some parts of the modules. What we are planning is James Kinross from Imperial, with his team, have developed in a hospital now a new platform that uses VR headsets for the virtual walkarounds around the hospital, that was developed specifically and deployed for COVID. But there are so many other applications that we could use it for, and we're planning to use it as a way to guide students through in the hospital. So we see that as a very interesting opportunity, because it's quite a huge change, not only for doctors that could join potentially now remotely from different locations, so we could invite experts that are usually not able to attend, but also for medical students as well as design students and design researchers. This opens potentially a whole new world of access. So maybe one more thing that I will share. We have one module that I'm a module lead for upcoming, which is focusing on, which usually is very interactive and very hands-on, and we are building, it's a behavior change module, and what I usually do with the cohort is it's a master's to MSc. Alongside the behavior change theory and design related to that, they develop an interactive prototypes that work with sensors using Arduino platform. So what we are looking to utilize is as the Tinkercad platform, and we're also looking into sending students the kits so they could follow on the website and prototypes themselves at home. So perhaps that would be helpful for someone. We are still looking into how to make the group work more interactive, especially with students from different time zones. So I might have some updates on that. We will be planning more of the approaches next week. We certainly found that our course is very, very much based on group work within modular activities, and we had to step back from that for the previous modules because it was just, we simply didn't know where people would be. And right now we are moving the groups back. So yeah, it's very helpful to actually listen to the tips and tricks that you have all talked about. That's a lot of food for thought. Thank you.
Good. Anna, it would be great if Carolina could get in touch with you if you didn't
mind.
Yes,
that would be wonderful.
Seems as though you probably have a lot to share. Yeah.
Absolutely, yes. Let me just leave my email here. Please do not hesitate to contact me. We are always, up for supporting other healthcare and not only projects and courses.
I should mention that Carolina was also one of the partners in the global project that we did. She came over to Glasgow one year and helped us run that project. So she'll know a fair bit about what works and what doesn't work.
Wonderful, and so many opportunities to join forces maybe with.
That's great. That's good. That brings us back to one of Matthew's questions. What doesn't work? Matthew, I hope we're answering that as we're going along, because there are quite a few things already: communication, prototyping, human-centered design, and how we're going to tackle that. We won't have answers for you today, but certainly we can start conversations. Okay, good. Right, Ross, any more comments down the chat that we can pick up on?
Yeah, on the same topic as before, Peter was also said he had some comments as well. If you want to quickly come on and share.
Good.
Nope, maybe not.
That's okay.
I think maybe he's actually left. I'm not sure. I can't see him anymore. So.
There was also there was the comment about different student circumstances and needing to be aware of that. I'm just trying to see who made that one. Is it Stefan? Certainly, I've come across that, particularly when the students are required to use computing software. There can be issues with the different computing machinery they have available, different access to software systems,
I think
and so
that was
on.
One of the biggest challenges for the students this year in finishing up, because one of the classes I teach is one of the submissions is to submit CAD files, and so if the students didn't have access to make the CAD files, what were they going to do?
Yes.
I'm just looking. It was Julian Lindley made that point originally about the different circumstances.
We did.
Julian's got his hand up, by the way.
I'm sorry, Julian. Please
on.
carry on.
I don't know if you can see me. It was a simple one in that we're assuming that the students will come to university and have an equal opportunity. And working at the University of Hertfordshire, just north of London, UK, it is apparent that many of our students don't have access to the same resources at home that we assume they would, even down to, in the modern world, not having laptops fast enough to run the CAD. But it goes, and so as we move forward, there are great advantages with online content, because we are also finding that students who have to work for part of the day will actually access information at 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning, which isn't normal learning time. But we can't disadvantage a student who comes to us but doesn't have the home resources to fully engage in what we're offering. I've got no answers. It was just that point.
Yeah.
I can see that Arthur is also has a raised hand if you want to chip in.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I do apologise for turning up late. For some reason, I had it in my head it was 4 o'clock and not 3 o'clock. So I apologise for being late. The thing I wanted to do was pick up on what Julian was just saying. At our place this morning, I got a NTU up in Nottingham. I got an email this morning from the university saying basically that they are putting a spec together. Each area is putting its own spec together, what they think is an ideal laptop that a student should need to do the course or module or whatever you're doing. Who's funding that? I'm not so sure. But I think that in terms of equal ops, it could be an issue. If you, as Julian says, if you have a whole set of different circumstances environmentally, where you got a youngster who can't afford a laptop and somebody who can. So that side of things need to be looked at, because if I was a student attending a course, undergraduate or postgraduate, and somebody said, well, you failed on this module, you didn't do so well because they didn't have the laptop, well, what can I do? So I just thought I'd mention that, because there are moves afoot for people to develop specs for specific courses.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. Claudia's also got her hand up. Do you want to come in and comment on this?
Yes, I just wanted to comment that from the experience of the Open University is that one of the challenges is to spot students falling behind or students struggling, because with students being local, it's much easier to sort of spot somebody having a problem and helping them. Whereas if they are remote, it might not turn up until quite a long time, because they'll feel hesitant to ask for any advice. The good ones will ask and the really weak ones will ask, but the ones in the middle might well drop, and then you might not spot it at the first assignment. So by the time it really gets picked up, it could be quite late. And I think coming up with a strategy of how to catch up with people and make sure that nobody slips through the net, or that the personality of somebody is simply getting in the way. I mean, we have a lot of students who don't have a lot of confidence, and then they don't say anything because they're shy, and you give them the benefit of the doubt. And then before you realize, it's a bit late for them to catch up. And I think that needs to get planned in from the beginning. And I think the other point is that you need to be fair across the years. So I get the impression a lot of people are now going into eek, help, I need to do something for the next cohort mode. But of course, that's setting standards for the years to come, and then that fairness needs to be assured.
Yep. Yes. Some very good points there. The confidence part. How do you bring out the confidence in those that can hide in a classroom and can hide in the remote spaces that are out there? Certainly, we can learn from some of the things that the Open University has done. So, Claudia, if there's anything that you think would be useful for online design education, if you passed any pointers on to us, any links, we can certainly disseminate them out to everybody else. I see there's another hand. Vinicius Marini, do you have a question?
Hello everyone.
Hello.
This is Vinicius from University of Santa Maria in Brazil. And the thing is, I'm figuring out with my own students in machine design that I give them an assignment about themes in the design process, such as normalization, such as standards, and for instance, design for manufacturing and assembly. And the matter is, for instance, when you have such a design work which is carried out by people on problems they are facing and then applying fundamentals of the subject, then the idea is that we were used to work in a continuous time. And now we have to shift for a discrete time, meaning that we will have to slice design assignments in a lot of, say, small milestones, right? For instance, okay, you've got to do a design task, you've got to build a prototype, and then you've got to say, not only say, student, please go and build a prototype, but student, please give us on the requirements. Please tell us about how do you intend to build. Please tell us about what you're finding wrong. So you have got to discretize. And then what the point here is that it can be quite stressful to students and to teachers alike if we set too many points in the middle of the process. But we will need to slice assignments in a way that we get engagement from the students, and that's a difficulty that I'm learning from this experience myself.
Good. Thank you. Thank you. Anything else in the chat that we haven't followed up yet? Another question. Imura.
Hi, yeah, Tokushu Inamura here. How you doing? I'm in Fukuoka City in Japan, so it's midnight my end.
Wow, thank you for joining us.
Yeah, hi Anna, we study together. Yeah, so I'm teaching undergrad at Design Futures and Design Strategy at the postgrad level. But I've been running a project about how to really develop a kind of river environment for thinking about like a post-human centered design for the riverside. So thinking about the whole environment beyond just people's needs, but also other species and how to live together, that kind of thing. But I found it to be really, really essential to have an embodied experience. So we work with a local NPO who coaches us in stand-up paddleboarding. So we paddle up and down the urban rivers before we get into the practical design. I know today there's a lot of focus on digital solutions like CAD and so on, and I think that's really important. We ended up developing CAD video last time, CAD-based kind of video, that kind of thing. But we had some exchange students from Milan and also from Germany, but they really needed to get like a first-hand point of view of what it's like to be in Japan and work with the local students and people. So this kind of physical embodied experience of them actually being active on the river together kind of creates the core for the final solutions. And I find that this is really, maybe it's one answer to the earlier question about what are we not doing or what can't be done. Is I find it really struggle to how can we reach such like a holistic level of research which is embodied through human sensations, and we're a long way away from that. So I just wanted to share my thoughts and see if anybody else had any kind of similar problems or ideas. Thank you.
It's not an area I've touched on, but certainly things like VR and perhaps AR could be potential support for that kind of issue, but nothing is as good as the real thing and paddling down that river, as you suggest. It's a difficult one. I think it's a big hurdle we have all got to get over, but if we can get through kind of addressing a lot of these issues, we're going to come out of this with a lot of good solutions, and we're going to improve design education as we move forward. It's been put on fast forward, and in a way, you know, as always happens, these things turn out for the best. So there will be a lot of positives. Already we've seen people that can get together in terms of what they're doing in their classes. It is impossible for us to cover everything in one session like this. But what we propose to do is to put up on the Design Education SIG some resources, and we also have the possibility of delving into the SIG library for you to look at papers that have already been written on lots of these different topics. Again, the source, the network that we have across the Design Society is so rich and valuable. You should be able to call on that, and if anybody wants to share their practices within class or their struggles and challenges, please let us know and we can start looking at maybe linking people up. Okay.
Yep. I think, yeah, that's one thing I've came out of today with is there's a need for the formal research that we do and the formalization of publishing papers at conferences like ENPD, at doing workshops on particular topics, but also the sort of informal chats that you get as part of a session like this. It might not be, you know, very structured, or everyone might not benefit, but it is nice to have conversations like this when we can. So it would be good for Design Education SIG to consider it.
Yes.
So yeah, just on this, education.designsociety.org will take you to the homepage. From there, you can get access to the SIG library, which has all the papers to do with design education, or you can go to the main Design Society website to see all papers that have been published there. If you've got any questions about the SIG, about the session today, you can email admin@designsociety.org, and we'll try to put people in touch or send you to the best information as well. Anything else to add on the session today, Hilary, before I move on to other things?
One of the things that we have found out in terms of experimenting with online design has been to allow students the room within the assessment to experiment. So they get assessed and they are given credit for things that even fail. And I guess that's how we learn and design a lot. And that's the kind of mode that we've taken forward. So try things online. If they don't work out, why didn't they work out? And what might they do better the next time? That is something that we value. So we as staff are learning a lot about this as we're going along.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Ross.
No problem at all. And thank you very much for attending the session, everyone. Thanks to Hilary for hosting this session. So if you want to learn more about Design Society, you can go to designsociety.org. A lot of the information is open access or public, but there are a few things that are restricted to members. So you can sign up for a membership to get access to more papers, and also the discount at events and things like that as well that I mentioned at the start. If you'd want to know more about the upcoming chat rooms and you want to be informed about them, you can go into your profile on the website, or you can go to the members dashboard and click subscribe SIGs and chapters, and you can add the chat room to your network there, and you'll get all the information about the upcoming events. And thank you very much, everyone, for attending. If you did join us late, don't worry, we're recording the session, and it will be on the website also.
Lovely. That's
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ross. Thank you. And everybody who participated.